Thank you all for having me. And special thanks to Audrey and Kim for putting on this amazing event and inviting me, and to Jim for that very, very nice introduction. Yes, I am from Denora, Pennsylvania, and I am a very big fan of Pittsburgh, and I love being back here. So I'm very happy to be able to talk here. I'm going to do something a little bit different than I normally do, which is today I'm going to talk about my own personal journey, sort of where I began with Denora and where I am today, and I hope you'll indulge that because there's a lot of personal stuff in here. But before I begin, what I want to do is pay homage to Professor Fallman, who's a Carnegie Mellon University professor, and 30 years ago in May, recognized that the web could be more than just a way of connecting people with what they were doing when he introduced this emoticon. And this emoticon is about how we were doing. And I'm going to get more to that later, but I am standing here on the shoulders of Professor Fallman for recognizing that the web can have energy as well. So this was my family growing up, my extended family in Denora, Pennsylvania. And that's me in the little striped jacket down there. Looks like a monkey on the bottom line there. And my family actually was quite emotive, even though they don't look like they were very emotive. I played football at Ringgold High School. I was actually an all-state football player there. I'm showing you both my helmets, the one on my head and the one on the ground here. And I used to catch ball with a guy named Joe, who grew up down the street. And actually for a period of time, because he dated my sister, he became my brother-in-law for about 5 years. So, interesting part of my life there. I don't know how I got in here from Ringgold High School. To this day, I do not understand it, but somehow I did. And then after I graduated, I'm being told to speak up. So after I graduated, I had the great fortune of going to work for ABC Sports, where I worked with all of the legends: Howard Cosell, Frank Gifford, Keith Jackson, you name the event, the 500, the Olympics, World Championships. I was there. Spent 2 years on the Olympics, worked with Jim McKay quite a lot. An extraordinary opportunity for a 20-something-year-old fella. And then again, even more astoundingly than getting into my undergraduate, they let me into this place, which is, I knew nothing about business. I still know very little, but it's absolutely astounding that I got into this place. And then I ran a game studio. When I was running a game studio called BMG Games, at the time I said, okay, let's make that game. I see some smiles of GTA fans. Then I went over to Russia, and we decided that after 70 years of communism, what the communist world really needed was a good dose of MTV. So I spent a year in Moscow, and I helped to introduce all of the MTV culture. And you know what they're most interested in over there? Beavis and Butthead. They love Beavis and Butthead. So from there, I started a .com, and this was 1998, which was the early .com before the first crash. Yu-Gi-Oh!, subversive, fist, revolutionary. If any of you are hardcore gamers, you know this was about hardcore gaming, et cetera, et cetera. 98, things were flying, exciting, before the crash, and then boom, we were downtown Manhattan Company. I worked a mile from this. I watched this happen. Me and my employees, this horrible, horrible day in New York City, and we lived through it, and lived through the ensuing crash that happened to the financial industry. From there, we were able to regroup the company. You can see we changed the logo from a fist to a softer, gentler, kinder meatball. Revolution was out post 9/11, if you remember that. But still, what were we doing? Lots of games, lots of movies, lots of music, commercial, pushing the envelope, delivering everything through the internet that you could possibly see, and of course, lots and lots and lots of girls in bikinis, because that sold a lot of pages. And then it was 2005, and I was about to have a child, and I decided to get LASIK surgery. And boom, I went black. Now I'm going to ask all of you to close your eyes. No, that's much too gentle. Take your eyes and slam them shut. Slam them shut like you can't have any control over them whatsoever. This is the way I lived for 3 years, coming out of LASIK. I had this insane, very, very rare reaction to LASIK surgery. It's called benign essential blepharospasm, which in Latin means eyelid spasms. But they weren't slight. They were so intense that I literally could not open my eyes. So I was legally blind for nearly 3 years. I had a child. Actually, I had 2 children during this period of time, and I couldn't see them. If you see this picture, my eyes are closed. I can't even see my baby. And my daughter, who's now 7, thankfully, is looking at me. And this was my life. This was also my life because during those 3 years, I continued to run my company, UGO. And to get from where I lived to where I worked, I had to travel by subway. So what I used to do was I used to scotch tape my eyelids open, one of them, so I could make it through the subway system and get to work or get to a taxi cab. Or I would find people on the street who would grab my arm and help me across the street. And my general counsel and the president of my company would read documents to me. And they supported me. And my wife believed that I would get better, even though the doctors told me it was highly unlikely. Imagine navigating New York City with your eyes slammed shut. And it was really, really a very, very sad and difficult period of time for life. Especially not knowing if I would ever get better, if it would ever go away. This didn't happen, right? The great Spider-Man story where he loses his senses and then develops all of these keen senses. That doesn't happen. However, this did happen. I really didn't go into the matrix, but I sort of did go into the matrix. And by that, what I meant is my eyes were slammed shut, and I was navigating this world, running a business, 2 newborns, doing what I was doing with my eyes slammed shut. And I began to see energy like I had never seen energy before. I began to sort of sense things and understand things and listen to people in a different way. And I began to understand what empathy really meant. I understood the people who were being empathetic to me. I also understood the people who were not being empathetic to me, those people who were running me over in the subways and not helping me. And I developed a very, very keen understanding during those years of what this behavior was and how important it was to all of us. And I also began to see my business differently because remember, I'm still running this company that's delivering all these images and all of this commercial activity. And I began to see it differently. I began to see it as energy as opposed to pictures or as opposed to those types of things. Fortunately, my eyes started to get better. The cramps let go to some degree, and my eyes began to open. And I was able to sell my company miraculously to the Hearst Corporation, which was a very, very good thing all around. And then it was kind of a really good thing that I had sold my company, but my eyes were still quite messed up. But I was navigating this world of post-selling my company. My eyes are still bad. What am I going to do next in my life? What sort of business do I want to do? And then I saw Monsters, Inc. with my kids. And this was a period of time when my eyes clearly were open enough to watch Monsters, Inc. And have you all seen Monsters, Inc.? Okay. So some people see Monsters, Inc. and they think it's about a monster world and a real world, and you go through a door, et cetera, et cetera. But what I really keyed on to in this is that Monsters, Inc. is about emotional energy. Because the monsters go into the real world, kids' world, and they scare kids, and they put it in that canisters, that fear. They take it back and they power the city. And then at the end, the cute twist is that they make them laugh, and making kids laugh is much more powerful than making them cry, which of course we all know to be true. And I thought, you know what? There's something to that. And I've been looking for something to do, and I'm going to start a company that does that. I'm going to start a company. I'm going to call it Baguba, just because I like the name. And it's going to tap into the world's emotional energy on the web. And that energy is going to empower humanity to do good things. Because the web is has the potential to do amazing things. And people are kind. And if we put these things together, I think we can change the world. So the web, for me, at that stage was turbines sitting in the desert, turning, and creating value because they're turning. But wasn't really plugged in for me. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could take Professor Fallman's original idea of how we are doing on the web and plug it into the wall? Because if we plug it in, we can light things up. We can change things. So that's what my new company is. My new company is called Baguba, and it's tapping into the world's emotional energy. And it is recognizing that every action on the web has an inherent value. And that inherent value can be used to change the world. WeChi, which was the first product, is what I call an empathy machine. What it does is it actually measures empathy and gives you feedback on your empathetic behavior. Then you can use the points that you accrue through your empathetic behavior by being a good friend, by being a nice person, by being a supportive friend. And you can use the value that you create to give to your favorite charity. And by giving to your favorite charity, that makes you even more empathetic. So it's a virtuous cycle, Mobius strip, if you will, in which we can give back to the world by being a good friend. Social WeChi is an online marketplace. So WeChi, by the way, is in early testing beta. GoodChi is about to be launched. And GoodChi is recognizing that every action on the web has inherent energy. And it's using that energy to create value, and that value will be donated. That money will be donated to charities by sponsors, and sponsors will get, in return for that, a relationship with the consumer. But both of these are premised on two things. One is kindness on the web is a good thing and is in the future. And the other is that every action on the web has inherent value, and that inherent value is not being used. And we can improve the common good of the world by tapping into that inherent value on every keystroke. Because in the end, right, we have some very serious global issues. One of the biggest global issues is that we're being incredibly inefficient with our use of energy. Whatever type of energy it is that you want to think about. We have 7 billion people on this globe, and we're using resources in a rather irresponsible way. What I would say is that energy, emotional energy, is one of those resources. It's another type of energy that's being used in an inefficient way. And when I go to a globe like this, I look at the East and then I look at the West, I think about the what ifs, right? Which is, what if every single keystroke that you made on the web helped the common good and helped solve these global problems? And I think that's doable. And that's my story. So thank you for your attention, and I appreciate you having me. Thank you.